So with the opening of a child-friendly space at the National Children's Registry in St. Andrew recently, the CPFSA is now in a better position to reach abused and vulnerable children. Joining us now is Deputy Registrar with the National Children's Registry, Lesia Bhagwandat-Vassell. And she's here to tell us more about it. I hope I got the name right.
Yes, we did. Good morning, and thanks for having me.
Good morning. Good morning.
Let me get something out of the way. One of our hot topics was this awful beating for this young 14-year-old. Have you guys got involved in that?
Well, yes, we got involved, and at the due time and due process being followed, then we will make not a statement about it, because I'm sure that person would have seen that, in the written paper, that yes, the CPFSA is involved, and yes, they're doing an investigation.
Yeah. Just before Debbie, how many cases like that would you be seeing, say, for last year? I mean, when I say cases like that, abused kids we're talking about.
Abused kids.
Something like what we saw. Hopefully we won't see anything like that ever in life again. But how many cases?
So thank you for that. So when we do the checks, well, I'm going to give you as at November 2023, we would have seen over 13,382 reported cases of child abuse.
13,382
cases coming to the National Children's Registry. And we will say on average about 1,200 on a monthly basis that we see of child abuse of all forms, whether they are physical, sexual, emotional, child labor, child trafficking. We see on a...
Those numbers are really alarming.
Pretty much.
Who's considered a child here?
Well, a child is anyone who is under the age of 18 years old, and these are the reports that we take for these children.
Okay.
Wow. We're supposed to be talking about child-friendly spaces and how we can create those, especially as we go into a new year. With those numbers and the data that you just now offered, that has to be a focus for us. How do we go about doing that?
Well, yes, it has to be a focus, a space where children can feel relaxed and comfortable and calm in, expressing themselves and working with our professionals. I must say that last year in December, it sounds far, in December, that we would have set up 2 of these child-friendly spaces so that we are able to engage with child victims. Well, the initial stage is that they should be victims of trafficking, but we recognize that, the numbers for trafficking are so small and the numbers for the other types of abuses are so great. So what is to prevent us from using these spaces to engage with the other types of abuse?
So when we talk about child-friendly spaces, we're talking about the spaces set up by the CPFSA for persons, for victims of abuse, trafficking, etc. Okay. Whew.
You already gave me the age. Is it the older youngsters you're hearing about, or the younger youngsters? You said from to 18-year-old.
Well, the ages varied. Sometimes we might think that, for example, let me use like sexual abuse. We might think that probably only the older children might be abused, but we are seeing the ages right across from birth to 17 years old, irrespective of whatever the types of abuse are, both sexes, male and female. I know that for some types of abuse, we normally were concerned about the females, but all types of abuse happen to both males and females.
Yeah. Have you found it, and I've read this, because I don't know, but I read that it's usually someone in the family, someone they know. Is that a reality?
Well, our statistics at the National Children's Registry, which is housed in the Child Protection and Family Services Agency, has been saying this for many years, that the persons who actually abuse our children are actually the persons that they know and they trust. So familiar people, parents who are seen as number one, by the way. When I say parents, I mean mothers, grandmothers, and stepmothers are seen as the number one abusers, then followed by fathers, stepfathers.
The mothers are the number one abusers? The mothers?
The mothers, stepmothers, and grandmothers, yes.
That's shocking to me.
That is very shocking.
Because, well, remember, we're looking at abuse as different types. So the emotional, the physical. And when we look on our Jamaican homes, they are made up of primarily
the mothers.
The mothers that are there.
Matriarchal homes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I guess that will speaks to why we will see that the mothers are seen as the
I still find it strange.
I know. How much has our culture in raising children, been the cause of these things?
Well, yes, culturally, because even while the child-friendly spaces were set up for trafficking, some of the things that we see as normal can probably be seen as child trafficking. So we send the child to go stay with our auntie, and the auntie over or work the child, not sending the child to school. Or the mother might can't afford something and, have the children having sex with Tom, Dick, and Harry and collecting and benefiting. And we might see it as normal, you beat the child because the child take something, but what I've recognized though is that it seems that our culture is shifting a bit away from these behaviors and these practices, but there's still a far way to go because there are some rural communities that still see these things such as incest, still see these things as normal. So we need spaces like these to express to the wider population that some of these things are not normal.
They're not rite of passages.
No, you don't have sex with your daughter just because you see this thing coming throughout the ages.
Take me through the process, Lesia. So you hear or you get a report from a young lady, young boy. Then what? So
the reports can be made through various channels. So the biggest one for us is the 211, where people call in to make a report. And once this report comes in, we do an assessment to see, where is it that these reports need to go, whether they're urgent or not. And our biggest service provider is ourselves. So we refer to internal investigations who go out and, try to determine whether or not the reports that come in, if they are true, yes or no.
Isn't that scary? Because if my son reports me and say, well, I'm going to beat him up bad or whatever I do, and then you come and say, oh, your son said, then me not go beat him after you're gone and say, well, you report me for boy. So
well, they have their skills in how to go about doing and getting the information from the child.
Yeah, and when you do your interventions, what does that look like? In addition to going to the home and interviewing the persons who are involved, etc., what else do you do?
Well, they do an assessment to see what is it that this child or these children are in need of. So it can mean just referring the child to other services, such as we work closely with the Child Guidance Clinic, mental health, the PATH program, whatever, or other counseling. So we have a child and family support unit that offers counseling support to, children who are not necessarily ward of the state, but children who we are trying to keep out of becoming wards of the state.
And when you remove them from that space, you put them into that safer space provided by the CPFSA?
Well, yes.
If you had to?
If we have to remove a child, that's the last resort for us. So if we have to remove a child, then yes, they are placed in a safe space by the CPFSA.
And the interventions with them would continue in that space?
We'll continue with our social workers and our therapists that are there.
And I suspect you've had reason often enough to just pull them from the home.
Yeah, man. So there should be sufficient reasons, urgent matters that will require us to remove a child from their familial setting.
Right. I still can't get over. More than 1,000 reports per month for child abuse. 13,000 reports in 11 months for child abuse. And as you heard, the mother, the grandmother, is the biggest abusers. Boy. Eh?
So we need to educate our parents on, parenting. Sometimes we believe that this is the way because we see our parents doing it.
I was just going to say, it's an interesting, I rate that question that Debbie asked, because some people think it normal if you just dump down your son or your daughter, they misbehave, and you just dump them down flat, because one at a time, maybe that used to happen. All the very best to you and your group and your family.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Deputy Registrar with the National Children's Registry, Lesia Bhagwandat-Vassell.
All right, guys, take precautions. We are still in the flu season. That discussion after the break. Stay with us.
What you say, if it ain't one thing, it's another.
Another one.